Welcome to the O Brother Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith.
How's it going, Dan?
Good, man. We're back again. It is, God, what is it going to be? September 17th when you hear this episode. And we're taking a little bit of a detour because we are, you turn your head and snap your fingers, it's going to be Halloween Fest in full effect. So
right,
we wanted to sort of get a jump on that. And this is something we've talked about for a long time. But before we set up the episode, for those of you that are not currently following us, make sure that you do. And the easiest way to find all things Oh Brother, Mike, you know what the drill is. It's to go out to our official website, which is OHB as in brother, podcast.com. That's OHB podcast. Wait a minute.
I wasn't paying attention.
What do you got going on there?
I picked up the wrong mug.
I didn't even know you had one of those old mugs.
Yeah.
So for those that are listening and not viewing, Mike, he's got the generic knockoff mug. It doesn't have the website address on there.
It's got the red handle.
This was got the red handle.
This
got
was
the
our
red
first
inside.
mug.
Yeah. But now you got to be sporting that official Oh Brother website, which again is OHB as in brother podcast.com. And you can get access to everything Oh Brother out there, our social media posts. You can get access to our blog, which Mike just posted. There's a fresh new blog out there. It just came out like 24 hours ago.
Yeah, there'll be a new one by the time this goes live.
Right. And that was a good one about Bond finally. It looks like it's finally going to get its theatrical release. No
Tickets
Time to
are
Die.
on sale.
Yeah.
They said no turning back. So.
Right. It is now. Well, as you said, and is it finally his time to die or something like that? We'll see how that goes.
Was the title, yeah.
So check that blog out, and also make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're not currently subscribed, we would really appreciate it if you'd support us out there and like our videos. We have a companion video that we put out on the channel for each of the episodes. So today's episode, speaking of which, and also don't forget the Oh Brother shop, which is on our official website as well.
That's right.
Mike's favorite item that he likes to plug.
The Oh Brother socks.
Got to get the Oh Brother socks.
I'm telling you, if somebody does a sock puppet Oh Brother podcast, like a 30-second, send it to me. I'll send you a movie.
Did you like my lamb chop reference?
I did. I thought that was funny.
Speaking of which, Shelley Lewis, right? Shelley Lewis? Sherry Lewis.
Yeah.
And that was in the 70s, which is a nice segue into this episode because we're going back to the 70s.
We're in the 70s.
1975 to be exact. And Mike is holding up a wonderful 4K edition of Steven Spielberg's classic Jaws. Now, we just passed the 46th. I don't know how that's possible. The 46th anniversary of the release of that, which was June of 1975. And the reason we wanted to do this episode, because there's been this long debate for movie fans know there's this debate and it came up in some of the trivia episodes that we did, which is, is Jaws, since we're speaking of Halloween Fest, is Jaws a horror movie or not? That's kind of the simple question now.
And we got these movies we're calling, the reason we're having this is from the trivia.
Mm-hmm.
One of the questions was, name the horror movie or blah, blah, blah. So behind me are all the horror movies that have been nominated according to the Oscars.
And give us the list real quick. What are they in order?
Here's Silence of the Lambs. They're not in order, but Silence of the Lambs. Then we've got The Exorcist.
Mm-hmm.
Black Swan, another one we could be debating.
Interesting.
Above that is Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
Over here, the most recent is Get Out.
Right.
And of course, Jaws and Jaws. I put Jaws 2 on the back there.
All
and
right.
the most horrifying, the New England Patriots.
You'd given him no chance. 10 minutes ago, you're like, I think they got a shot, this new kid at quarterback.
It wasn't his fault today. He looks good.
Yeah.
Looks good.
We'll see what happens next week.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna hesitate and say that this is absolutely, positively, without a doubt, not a horror film. This is a thriller at best, is what this is. It's not a horror film. And there's a lot of articles on that you can go out and Google and read debates and some analysis on this very topic.
Right.
And, you know, it's the whole idea. First of all, I hadn't seen this film in a long
Ages.
time. Yeah, it was been a long time. And is it possible that I think this was only Spielberg's second film feature?
I think it was his third. He did the Duel.
Sugarland Express, I thought, was his first, and then he did this.
He did the Duel first.
Oh, he did the Duel first.
Yeah, which was like
the truck.
He kind of
Maximum Overdrive.
In the extras. You know, this should have made. I did a blog about the 5 best Blu-rays or 4K with extras.
Right.
And I'm going to have to update that next month when Citizen Kane comes out, because the Criterion is loaded. But this should have been on there. I probably put The Godfather on and should have taken that off. But there's a 2-hour documentary on this. Mm-hmm. And I watched it last night. And, you know, Spielberg talks about the Duel. And it reminds me of your favorite movie, The Car. Was that what it's called?
That's right.
It's this big truck chasing a car, and it's like a duel. Mm-hmm. And he related Jaws to that.
Right. And it was one of the reasons he wanted to back out of Jaws, was not wanting to get pigeonholed as a guy that does these types of films. He's the truck and shark guy. Yeah, you want to be the truck and shark guy.
I think he said
but
that.
the producers, I think, sort of held his feet to the fire and sort of enforced the contract and persuaded him to stay on. I guess it never turned into a big to-do, but he was wanting to actually step away from it.
So what are the things that you think, why do you think this should be eliminated from the horror genre?
Well, I think it more clearly falls into the thriller genre, because the whole film is just this anticipation to get to this climax. Whereas when I think of horror, I think of, you know, first of all, I don't think of something that I have to wait till the end for the payoff, right? It's like Michael Myers and Jason, like all those characters, Freddy Krueger.
Throughout the movie.
They're all throughout the film, right? And it's a slasher, right? There's this constant. Now, you might argue with Jaws, that opening 10, 15-minute scene is one of the best on film.
It's fantastic.
And it's just as intense 46 years later as it was originally, which I was, you know, just a wee baby at that point when it came out. But, you know, there's, other than that, and the latter part of the film, there's not a lot of blood and guts or gore.
I can push back a little bit, because although I read Roger Ebert's, he had 2 reviews. He had one from back in 75 when it came out, and then had another one when the DVD came out. So I read both of them.
Yeah.
The first paragraph of his review, the words thriller and action were both in the first paragraph.
Right.
First 2 sentences. Mm-hmm. But as I was watching some of the extras, Spielberg refers to these scares that he puts in the movie.
Like jump scares.
Yes. Like you would see in a
We've talked about that. Yeah.
With the cat jumping in the window, the cheap scare. But there was the scene where Richard Dreyfuss goes under the boat and the head comes out. That was a pretty good jolt. Mm-hmm.
But that's, you know, that's a scare. That's suspense. It's not horror. It's not horror. I think horror is, again, it's blood and guts. It's gore. It's decapitations. It's stabbings. Right. It's really.
Well, what about at the beginning, the opening sequence, which you just talked about?
Correct.
The girl,
gets
killed.
That's what I'm saying. That's a good example of it.
Yeah.
And then poor Quint, when poor Quint meets his fate,
munched. Yeah.
Right. That's another good shot. But aside from that, well, maybe the bobbing head in the water, perhaps.
The kid on the raft. Okay.
Not really.
Well, you know, I'll tell you, when I watched this
The
last
difference
night,
is the difference is like in Saw, that kid, you'd see the kid getting munched and ripped apart limb by limb if
well,
it was a horror film.
we got the leg floating down,
Yeah, it's not a great,
a loose leg.
right.
I agree with you. I think this is an action movie and a
Yeah.
thriller and a good one.
Right. And whether it's horror or not is to say nothing of the quality of the film. I love it.
Right.
I love the film. And, having not seen it for so long, I appreciated it even more. And I think I was starting to make this statement, but I don't know that I actually got it out, which is it possible this could be one of his best directorial features?
Efforts. Yes,
I
definitely.
mean,
you think about it.
and look at his resume.
Right. But right after this, he had Close Encounters.
Right.
Then he had Indiana Jones.
That's right. Right as a Lost
And
Ark.
then
Yeah.
he had Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
After that, and he had Schindler's List.
Well, you got to say Schindler's List, Saving Private Ryan. Like it goes on and on, but it's this is 75.
You watch Lincoln, it does not do what this movie and those other movies did, but this one especially.
The imagery, the shots in this film were just incredible. And maybe that's because of the fact that he was early in his craft at that point. I
don't know, but I was, it's funny you bring that up because I was thinking the exact same thing when I was watching this. I'm like, this is so well directed.
Yeah.
Right from the start, when they're showing the titles and they've got the camera, obviously it's on a scuba thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's going through the water, and you've got that John Williams score,
fantastic,
which is one of the best ever.
Right, which
so
was
simple.
It's a big reason why it's so suspenseful. Is that soundtrack,
And in the extras, Spielberg goes to John Williams and says, "Yeah, let me hear it," and he plays what we heard.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's laughing. He goes, "Come on, that's a joke, right? Where's the thing for the Jaws with the shark?" Like Spielberg didn't get it at first.
Yeah, interesting.
Which is really interesting.
It is interesting because that was the whole point, was to tease out. It was to suggest the presence of the shark. You've never, it's what, at
an hour 22.
Is it an hour? Is it that long?
Yeah. Now, if you count,
I don't dorsal count fin. Okay.
Right. I don't count that because
you're talking like actually seeing
seeing when it jumps out in the big scare, the big at when Scheider. Yeah. I called him
Roy
Scheider. Like, what's that from? Like
One Day at a Time.
Yeah. Right.
Still in the 70s. We're still in the 70s.
He's doing the chum. And all of a sudden it jolts up. It's a great
scene.
That's a fantastic scene.
Now, and that's it. Now I want you to talk about this a little bit because you're talking about Scheider, who's a great actor. He died in 2008, I think. And Robert Shaw, who of course plays Quint, who passed away in 78.
It was 4 years after he did it. Yeah, 4 years.
And then Richard Dreyfuss, which we can comment on in a couple of minutes. But talk about the role of Quint, because you referenced this many episodes back with a gentleman who was slated to play Quint, and that individual's name is
Sterling Hayden.
Yes,
but he was the second choice.
Mm-hmm.
The first choice was Lee Marvin.
Mm.
And he didn't want to do it. He said, "I'd rather go fishing, have fun."
Right.
So then he thought of Sterling Hayden.
He could have done both.
Hayden had a tax issue.
Yeah. He was out of the country, right? For tax evasion. He was fleeing the country or something.
Yeah. He couldn't, all of his money that they would pay him would go to the IRS. Mm-hmm. So he's like, he was kind of like, why should I work if my money's just going to them? I'm going to be bitter and I'm not even going to work.
Mm-hmm.
But he could make money if he was a writer. So they were going to pay him as a writer. And then Spielberg was like, no,
I don't want to
figure this is a scam.
Yeah, I don't want to be wrapped up in all that.
But they wind up getting Robert Shaw, who also has an IRS tax problem. And they had to literally fly him to Canada when he wasn't shooting because he could only spend so many days in the United States before getting taxed.
That's amazing.
What an amazing, what a fluke.
And you know, again, the scene that stood out the most for me was that monologue from him.
Yes.
When they're down, you know,
after they do the scar battle.
Right. Him and Dreyfuss are swapping scar stories. Right.
Yes.
And he has this long monologue about the fact that, you know, you learn that he was on the ship that was carrying the Hiroshima bomb.
Yes.
And it went down.
I've seen that ship.
Yeah, it went down in shark infested waters, the Indianapolis. But that's a good 5-minute monologue. And
I got a story about that too from the extras, which is really great. They were supposedly drinking and getting drunk when they were doing that. So I guess he was a big drinker. Between takes,
he's from Ireland. He was from Ireland. So.
Yeah. And I guess he was drunk for most of the movie. You know, they would say cut, he'd take a swig. Him and Dreyfuss hated each other, but I guess that led to the tension. But going back to that monologue you're talking about, first off, it was written mostly by him because the writers, Carl Gottlieb and Peter Benchley, who wrote the novel, couldn't quite get a grasp of that. So he did it drunk. And it was awful. And he called Spielberg to apologize that night. And he said, will you give me one more chance tomorrow?
Yeah.
And that was one take that we saw. He wrote it and it was in one take.
Yeah. For those who haven't seen Jaws, you got to put this at the top of your list just to see that performance. Now, Richard Dreyfuss, I wanted to comment on too, because you and I were talking about him off air, I don't know, a few weeks back because of an interview that I shared with you that he had done. And, you know, it was about his experience working with Bill Murray. Yeah. And there's clearly no love lost between those two. And he just sounded like a very bitter.
He was very bitter
guy. But that said, he is a tremendous actor.
Yeah.
And he's given us some amazing performances. And he's great in this. All three of them are great.
Yeah, it was a fantastic trio.
And Lorraine. Oh, no, let me back up for a second. The guy that played the mayor, of Amity. And see, this is where I think I got confused about the Amityville horror over the years, because Jaws was filmed in Amity, Massachusetts. In New England, it was filmed
actually
in
Long Island. They were islanders.
No, that's not true.
It was filmed in Massachusetts, but it was supposed to be Long Island.
Yeah, but he came down from New York to work in this town. It's set in Massachusetts.
I think you got to check that.
I'm checking it right now, folks.
Yeah, check it because remember Lorraine is talking to the woman on the beach and she says, when do I become an islander?
No, because remember in the very opening scene between Scheider and her, she says something about some accent. And then he says, yeah, they parked their car in Harvard Yard or something like that.
Yeah.
And he goes, how does that sound? He goes, like you're from Long Island or like you're from New York or something. So here, I'm gonna
look it up because I'm really curious about. I know it was filmed in Massachusetts. I know that.
Yeah,
for a fact, but I think this is Amityville, New York.
We need to get closure on this. Jaws was the first major motion picture to be shot on the ocean, by the way. And talk a little bit about how well the shark functioned on this production.
probably anybody that knows anything about Jaws has heard those stories, and it's one of the extra features because what happened is they tested the shark, this
Mhm.
electronic shark. They tested it in Universal Studios in California in the water tanks. Worked perfect, worked fine.
Right.
But they didn't take into account the salt water. And apparently, when they put this shark in the salt water, it just corroded everything. And, although Spielberg said before he even took the movie that he wasn't going to show the shark until at least an hour into the movie,
Yeah.
he didn't think he was going to have all this trouble. I mean, it got delayed like 55 days because of trouble with the shark.
Right.
And when you watch it and you see it, it seems like it was just effortless.
Well, I can't see the confirmation here, so you're going to have to do that for us. Oh, look, the role of Quint was originally offered to actors Lee Marvin and Sterling Hayden, both of whom passed.
Got it.
Yeah. So I know I read that, but
can't you ask your phone?
Did you see this? For the role of Hooper, Spielberg initially wanted, and Hooper, of course, was played by Richard Dreyfuss. Spielberg initially wanted John Voight.
Yes.
Yeah.
He went through, he
Jeez,
offered
Jeff
it to
Bridges,
Dreyfuss.
Kevin Kline.
Yeah, he offered it to Dreyfuss first.
Lucas.
And he turned it down.
Suggested Dreyfuss.
Yes, because he worked with them on American Graffiti.
Right? Yeah. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And Spielberg worked on American Graffiti with Lucas as well.
Yeah. Well, okay. It says principal photography, began on the island of Martha's Vineyard.
Yes.
Selected after consideration was given to Eastern Long Island. So, yeah, we'll have to confirm.
Pretty sure it's supposed to be Long Island.
Yeah, I don't think so, because it would make no sense why they were doing the joke about the accent from the very beginning. So I'm standing by that, folks. Standing by that.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, let's get back on track. So we're both, yeah.
Well, it was something. What were we saying before that?
What were we talking about? Quint and we were kind of going down. We were talking about Richard Dreyfuss.
We're talking about the location. And
I thought we were talking about the bitterness of Mr. Holland's opus.
And then we went to this. But the reason I know this was filmed in Massachusetts, we were going to go up there because we knew they were paying people. Like I heard they were getting paid $25 to run in the water, and it was only about an hour from here.
Yeah, you could have been Mikey.
Yeah. So me and Dave, my friend Dave, were going to go. And because they actually film a lot of stuff in Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. And they continue to. But yeah, we could have been in Jaws running into the water. Yeah. There's a funny story too. That kid that got munched, his name was like Billy Kittner. In the movie, Alex
Kittner.
Wow, that's good. Yeah, that's good memory.
Yeah.
And so the woman who plays his, she slaps.
Right.
Slaps him good.
She's wearing the veil, the black, because of the funeral.
She, years later, she goes into a restaurant. This is many years later, I guess. And she sees on the menu the Billy Kittner fish sandwich.
The Alex Kittner.
Really? Fish sandwich.
Oh,
and she says to the waiter, I was in the movie Jaws. The owner comes out. It's the kid who played Alex Kittner.
Oh, that's crazy. Wow, that's amazing.
That's why you got to own this.
That's on the making of stuff.
It's on the extras.
That's great.
There's so many stories.
Well, and again, that's one of the points here is it's a fantastic film, but it's not a horror film. It's just not.
Yeah.
And you'd be hard pressed to convince us otherwise, because it sounds like we're both in the same camp.
I think so. I was trying to push back and make.
But if there was more, again, if there was more of the blood and guts, like it starts out and towards the end, but there's only so much you can do. What are you going to do? Because again, the whole thing is drawing the suspense out over the course of the film. So there really wasn't a lot of opportunity for that anyways. Yeah. It's clearly a thriller, a suspenseful thriller, and a story.
If we went outside and went to 100 people, say, hey, have you seen Jaws? Every one of them will say, oh yeah.
Right.
What kind of movie do you think it is? They probably say drama.
Maybe even action. Maybe an action film. Yeah.
But well, you know, I don't think we'd hear horror.
Now, when did that 4K release come out?
Just last year.
So it was part of the 45th anniversary.
Yeah, 45th. This is the 45th.
Yeah, that's nice.
And you know, it's kind of a scam because everything from this. Now, I will say one thing in my long, arduous argument with you over digital
Physical
versus
media.
physical. Yes. I started this. I have a Fire Stick that's 4K. I have it hardwired to my, so there's no, and I started to play the 4K digital. And I was watching, it was a little, so then I got up and I said, you know what? Why am I watching this?
Put a disc
just because I was being lazy. So I got up, I got the disc, put it in. Wow. What a huge difference. Now, I don't know if there's a huge difference between this one and this one.
Well, I can tell, all I can say is watching the 4K digital that I have was excellent.
And I think if you could have compared these side by side, you would have seen
I think
some of the differences.
I think it's negligible. It's negligible.
One of the other things, I'm like, okay, so this was nominated, but I know he didn't win.
Yeah.
So I wanted to see what it was nominated for. And as I was watching, I kept thinking, had to be nominated for editing.
Yeah, I think it was, right?
So
editing and writing, maybe?
It won for editing. It won for music.
Music,
and it
right.
won for sound effects. Those were the 3 wins.
Sure. Yeah.
But
yeah, it's
and when you watch it, it's like you see, if you don't know anything about editing
or just filmmaking, it almost came off, you know, we said it earlier, it came off like a film 101 class with some of the shots and
like Roger Ebert,
and also well, it's because you get that big shark behind you. It's that panic setting in.
Yeah.
But it also that very famous shot of him sitting in the chair on the beach and that pull with the dolly, zoom. Yes. Oh my God, that's just one of the greatest shots on film.
You know, another shot that I loved that I don't think I ever really appreciated was when Dreyfuss and Robert Shaw are arguing, and then Shaw's out on the, there was the extension there, the walkway. And he's just out there leaning with the gun. And he's just got this grin on his face. And Spielberg keeps it on him. For a long time. I just love that. I mean, his family must have that photographed.
I was going to mention, I started to, and then I got distracted with my thought, but the guy that played the mayor.
Yes.
He was, I believe, his voice is very recognizable as well. I'm pretty sure he played Dustin Hoffman's father in The Graduate. Now, there's a good catch. I'm pretty sure, and let's just, since we have nothing better to do.
Yeah, you can look it up.
Yeah, let's look at this.
Our faithful IMDb.
I'm going to see
movie database.
He played Mayor Larry Vaughn. His name is Murray Hamilton.
Murray, yeah.
And of course, he was absolutely the father in The Graduate.
Yeah.
Thank you, folks. Yeah,
I wouldn't have caught that one.
Yeah, it was great. Plastics. Remember, get into plastics. See The Graduate, folks. Is another wonderful film. Anything else to say about John? Like, again, it's not a horror film, but it's a great film. But it's a great thriller, not a horror film, folks. So, drop us a line. Let us know what you guys think.
Yeah.
Are you in the horror camp? If so, why? What makes this a horror film for you?
Yeah.
And we know we've got a lot of horror aficionados that are, chomping at the bit right now for Halloween Kills. It's right around the corner. Speaking of horror, a lot of people I see on social media right now talking about this film. It's on HBO Max right now, and it's in theaters, called Malignant.
Yeah, I was gonna tell you, say, hey, you want to do this movie?
Yeah.
Malignant.
Good thing we did.
I didn't think you would want to.
I watched 5 minutes of it and I turned it
Terrible.
off.
Oh, okay,
horrible.
Good.
And this is what's his name?
James Wan. Yeah. You know what was funny? If you look at IMDb, because I looked it up when I saw it on HBO.
Yeah.
I thought, hey, let me look it up. And then I looked at the reviews, and this shows you how screwed up these reviews are. You know, the ones that you could read on screen, everyone was a 10, right? And the first one, James Vaughn with a V, is a great director, blah, blah, blah. The next one was James Pawn, P-A-W-N.
What?
There was people screwing with the
Just messing with it.
database. Yeah.
That's
Go
funny.
look that up. You'll have a good
I
chuckle.
believe you. I believe it.
Yeah.
But it was so terrible.
I'm surprised because
I couldn't get past the first 5 minutes. I'm like, this is so
and isn't it
rent.
a voyeuristic, like a rear window kind of thing?
I couldn't get that far. The opening was so goofy and so low budget. It just looked terrible. So it's probably why it's released, you know, simultaneously on HBO Max. That was just horrible.
Notice how Bond conveniently, because that's being released by MGM, who is releasing all these movies on HBO Max.
HBO Max, yeah.
But Bond, I guess.
Well, is that Warner Brothers?
There was a big
MGM is in that camp.
Yeah, they're in the camp.
Because Warner Brothers is the HBO Max thing,
right? And MGM has now been bought by, I think.
Okay.
I was reading it because I know Sony usually puts out the Bond films. You know, they're really with Sony, and I started reading. It's all convoluted because the rights came due for this film.
Yeah.
Like every couple of years, the rights to the Bond movies to distribute, they come available and people buy them because, you know, they're usually worth millions. I don't know if this one, No Time to Die, which cost $300 million.
Yeah. You got a quick recommendation for the listeners? What's your recommendation this week for movies?
Yeah, you know, I would say start one of the horror franchises that you like. Get you know, whether it's Chucky, whether it's Friday the 13th, which does 15 movies, whether it's one of the iterations of Halloween, which this is going to be the 15th movie. And if you count like the TV cuts and the director's cut and the producer's cut of 6, which is a completely different movie than the original. Pull something like that up and get yourself in the mood for the temperatures hopefully coming down. What about you?
I'm going to go a totally different route, and it's only because I'm thinking of Richard Dreyfuss in Jaws, one of my favorite films. Another one of these like sleepers, like I mentioned last episode at Close Range, is a film called Once Around, it's another film based in New England. It's a wonderful cast. You've got Holly Hunter, you've got Rollins. I want to say Gloria. Gina Rollins.
Oh,
she plays the mom.
I forgot she was in it.
One of my favorites, Danny Aiello, is in it. He was an amazing actor. Dreyfuss, of course. And is it Laura San Giacomo?
Yes.
Is that right? Plays her sister, I think.
I think you're right. Yeah.
And there's some other performances in there as well. But it's a really
Gina
great.
Rollins, who is John Cassavetes' wife.
Yeah, she
was in it.
It's a great film. I remember, going around Boston to some of the locations where they shot that, and it's a really nice film, and just a great acting performance by Richard Dreyfuss in that film.
Yeah, it's so funny because ever since you sent me that article, I've had this real thing about Richard Dreyfuss that bothered me so much.
I try to, like I keep saying to people when I bring up certain artists and things, it's like separating the work from the person. You can't.
Right, like Bill Murray.
I think you need to do that.
A lot of people think Bill Murray's a jerk.
Yeah, whatever their personal stances are, their political leanings, fine. You don't have to agree with it, but
separate that from their art.
Exactly. So, all right. Well, listen, hey, we're in agreement on this one. Jaws is brilliant. According to Oh Brother, it is brilliant, but it is not a horror film, folks. It is for us in the thriller, suspense, action genre, somewhere in there. So, but we will be coming at you with some horror reviews, and not the least of which is going to be a deep focus on Halloween Kills. That'll be
Can't
coming
wait
up
to
before
see
you
it.
know it. Yep.
And you broke this to me, which really got me excited. Is I don't have to go into the theater to see it.
You're going to
You
get it
can
on
watch
Peacock.
it on Peacock.
Yeah. No, I'm going to be
the day
in,
it comes out.
I'll be in the theater for this one. I
I'm
never
excited.
miss. Never
I'll
miss
see
a
it in the
theatrical.
theater eventually. I will see it in the theater, but not opening weekend, which,
I will.
you know, you will. So
Yeah, I'll be checking it out. All right, there you have it, folks. Jaws, that's going to do it for another episode of the Over There podcast. I've been your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith. And we will see you next time.
see you next time, everybody.
Ahoy, matey.
Yahoo! Arr. And it's my Robert Shaw.